Welcome back to the Arcadian podcast. Today is Monday, June 3rd, 2019, and it is episode number 18. I am Matt Franceschi, and joining me today I have Adam Wolf, Ben Bachman, and Dave Mead. Trending news today, we're going to be talking about Riot Games' announcement of their new League of Legends Pro View, which is a new and better way to watch professional league games. We're going to discuss the new Death Stranding trailer that was just released on May 29th, and then we're going to jump down and wrap up with our E3 2019 predictions and summaries of what we think that we'll see. Main topic today is actually going to be toxicity in competitive gaming. So the reason I chose this is I think that we all have a lot of personal experience with this, since we play a lot of MOBAs and card games and any online competitive shooters that you can think of. I mean, we've all played a lot of different versions of these kind of games. But I feel like toxicity is something that's become extremely prevalent in the gaming community over the past decade or so. I mean, maybe even longer than that with like Xbox Live and things like that. But I personally think it's gotten worse over time as online ranked competitive games have risen in popularity. And I think that streaming is probably tied into this as well. But I think that overall there are many causes and reasons for toxicity, which I think that we're going to get into, and I think will be the meat of this conversation. But let's just start out by talking about our own personal experiences with coming across toxicity in games. And also, I've seen many online communities state that they think that their game is the most toxic, and maybe they are correct. But what game do you personally feel is the worst with this?
It almost seems like a competition with what you just said, huh? Like everyone trying to one up with their stories of the toxic communities that
Yeah,
they.
it does kind of. Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
Oh yeah, seriously. But I was just thinking, man, I can't remember a time where it wasn't toxic. At least like at points. When the stakes are high, right? In multiplayer games. And my good experience, I know we're talking about toxicity. I just want to preface it with my good experiences are mostly on like the onset and like fresh MMOs where people are like working together to get the gear or get the dungeon. That's always like a positive experience. I've had that both in World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. But I just wanted to preface with that where I've seen positive, because it's super fucking rare in video games. Mostly MOBAs is the prime suspect for me. It's like people just like they go insane about this shit, man. Like they lose their minds. Their mother effing you. They're like calling you the worst things in the book. And it's always this complex where it's like they think that they're like the best player ever. I've always looked at it like, and I've said this to you guys too. I think mostly through League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm. I wish that someone, like, I've tried to do it for periods of time. I wish that someone would be like constructive and actually like, I know you don't want to be typing along because you're playing a competitive game, but actually like try to give someone some advice, that's actually constructive and will help them get better. But I've done that for a period of time and I stopped pretty fucking quickly from the responses. It's like it came full circle and like bit me right in the ass.
Yeah, well, like, it doesn't even matter what you say, even if it's, like, constructive and kind, people just take it the wrong way and get pissed at you anyway.
Yep.
Like, it's just how it works.
Mhm.
That's funny how you said that, like the everybody thinks they're the best player.
Mhm.
And I feel like that conversation used to come up so often. I bet it still does, especially with like League of Legends, where everyone was just always complaining that, like, man, the reason I can't get out of silver or gold and ranked is because my teammates are so bad. And like that's why I'm so toxic in my games and I get so frustrated and I just keep losing because it's everybody else's fault. I mean, Ben's right. Like everyone thinks they're so freaking good at the game. Like when we play League and like we're in like, I don't know, what was it, like iron or bronze when I came back this most recent time.
Yeah.
And everyone's like flaming the shit out of you. Like you're in the same rank as me. Like you're no good at this game either. Just shut up.
I've even like actually like explicitly stated that before. I've said like, yeah, like we get it, like you're in silver and like, but yet like you're the best fucking player in the game, and it just doesn't like make any headway in the conversation at all. Which I mean, it's a pretty shitty thing to say, so obviously like they're not going to respond well to it. But you would think it would be like an eye opener for someone when you say that, and they still think they're the best. It makes no sense. Or they just say again that you're shitty. And you're like, no, we're the same rank. Like, we're just all really bad.
It's the absurdity of it, man. It's just like insane. There's like, I feel like there's like a real problem in most communities, especially in competitive games, where there's like no self-reflection. It's always just like, I don't know if it's just because there's a lot of young players and that's a trait that a young person has, you know? You learn that with age, mostly. If you learn that at a younger age, and you learn that as you get older. If you learn that at a younger age, you're at a great advantage.
Yeah, or if you learn it at all.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I hate to jump into this so quickly because I think it's something that's really on a deeper level. But the main thing, and it happens on social media as well, is there's a disconnect when you're not in front of someone, right? When you're communicating through the internet, you're communicating through a screen, you know, it's the visuals on a fucking screen. You don't get, there's no fear of a response or someone showing you up or someone beating your ass or someone pushing you, or, you know what I mean? Like it's just like no holds bar. It's just fucking craziness. Anything they want to say, you know, and it's really a problem. I've noticed it on social media. People just go balls to walls. There's no discretion whatsoever. They just go nuts.
There's no repercussion. I feel like, you know, the games have these reporting systems in place, and I guess they kind of work, but you know, like, do they really? I feel like there's such a delay in when you report somebody and when something actually happens, and a lot of the time I can't even tell if my report even did anything. So I just feel like maybe a revamp of the reporting system would help that, but you know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in the past. Really hard to do this shit. There's so many people playing the game, and it would really take an effort to do it correctly, you know. I think that they could do it half-assed and just be banning a lot of people, or, you know, have repercussions for a lot of people. But to do it on a large scale and to do it really in a quality way where it's being fair to people, I think it would take a lot of effort. A lot.
Yeah,
they just haven't figured it out yet.
It's, and like, you have to allocate a lot of resources to it to do it right, I think. As far as like a reporting system goes, you have to allocate a lot of like manpower and stuff to like actually like weed through the reports and find out, because like it's kind of hard for like an automated system or a computer or AI or whatever to determine like faulty reports and not faulty reports, in my opinion. So I feel like you'd have to put a lot of manpower and time and money into making a better reporting system or whatever. And it's like, I get it, like toxicity is a problem or whatever, but I would rather them just spend money on developing a game better than to like plow like a significant amount of resources into, you know, fixing people being dicks.
I'm in agreement there.
Can't really fix that, right? People being jerks.
Right.
I mean, what League was always saying,
like, yeah, right. Like, I don't know if we want to talk about fixes right now or not.
No, I mean, we can talk about that later. But
I think something that may have to be done, and it's a silly idea, and I'm just kind of joking, but maybe a book in really young, at a really young age, you know, 4th graders, 5th graders, online etiquette 101.
Yeah, maybe if Riot starts publishing books and selling at the Scholastic Book Fair every year or something.
Seriously.
But you'd have to make it a YouTube video. There's no way they're gonna sit down and read a book on etiquette.
These kids need to be reading a fucking book.
Probably just make everything worse.
Oh my gosh, it'd just
They
be
would
a huge
troll the
meme.
book. Yeah, it'd be awful.
Yeah, everyone would be super polite then. It'd just be like unbearably annoying.
It would be even worse. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys was I personally believe that it adds a different flavor if you're being toxic, quotation marks, in like an appropriate manner, right? Like a little banter, a little fucking with people, you know. I think that's a picturesque community for me, you know. I want that. It's just when it becomes like malevolent, you know what I mean, and people are just being mean to be mean, that's when that's when I'm like, come on, man, you're just look.
Yeah, well, I mean I don't know really what even the definition of toxicity is. I mean, my point of view is that it's like criticism is fine, I don't care, but I think it's more whenever you're being super negative and it's adding nothing of value to the outcome of the game,
yeah,
or like to the enjoyment of the game. I think that's when you can kind of like see that difference in, you know, like of that line there, wherever that lies.
Yeah, I just wanted to get you guys' perspective on like, doesn't not the toxic, we'll say, but the when people do it correctly, the back and forth bantering.
Yeah, I think that makes it more fun, personally.
I know, me and you do it all the time. We always throw it HOTS. We always go in there.
It's like a form of camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a little different than flat out toxicity. I think most people would agree with you. I know what you're talking about just from playing with you, like the goofy stuff you'll say like to your teammates and stuff like that. I would never classify that as toxic, and I'm not sure most of the community would either. So,
well, we're dealing with a lot as gamers, as we get a larger and larger population of gamers and diverse gamers, you know, there's going to be a larger and larger spectrum of people who are, you know, on one side who are not going to get offended from anything and be doing what we do, laughing, you know, and then the other side is going to be, you know, one thing will be like, well, fuck you, buddy.
I mean, we have friends like that. Yeah, like one thing just cuts them off, and they just
that'll be it.
The keyboard warrior for the rest of the game, just fighting it out.
I really want to like flesh out the idea that we just talked about there being no repercussion because it's all online and everybody's basically strangers, or you don't know who anybody is. Like you're all in a persona, basically. You're using a persona. I think that on the flip side of that, you also get this scenario where whoever you're playing with, if you come in with this negative attitude that they're these huge idiots, or you know they're just like terrible at the game, any mistake that they make, you're gonna it's going to reinforce that opinion that you have coming into it. And I think that comes with that screen and not knowing who's on the other side, because at least for me, like I don't even know who I picture that I'm playing with. It's like I don't have like a mental image of somebody whenever I'm playing, but you know, if I come in and just think they're going to be bad, usually then they're going to be bad, or I'm going to hone in on all of their mistakes.
I think you said it there. Like you can't make a mental image of these people you're playing with. Like you never spend enough time with anybody in the community. You get any kind of rapport with them. What I'd like to like compare it to would be, you know, like modern WoW kind of suffers from this now, that, you know, everyone's just like a random person that you jump into groups with and do whatever you want. Like they're expendable. You just don't care about them for dungeons and this and that. But maybe that's why people are kind of like calling back for classic WoW. These communities were kind of like self-contained. You generally played with, you know, the same, I mean, maybe, I don't know, it was like 1,000 to 2,000 people. But after you played long enough, you started to know people, started to get a sense like who was good, who was bad, who was toxic.
Yeah, and you play with
people.
Now. You play with people like on your server, so you like knew, you know what I mean. You would see the names again, like, oh, I remember that guy. I saw him questing. Where now, okay, I'll make the joke. Sharding, ha 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 ha.
Hey, I don't want to hear you about your sharding anymore. This is a video game podcast, bro.
Good thing you said it, because I was gonna bring it up.
Yeah, I just figured I'd get it out of the way now, because you got the fuckers about that. But like now, like before, it was like server, like you play with the people on your server, you see these people repeatedly. You know what I mean? You see them out questing, you see them before you go into a raid, they're out and around, blah blah blah. But now with sharding, ha 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 ha.
No, I'm good. Second time around, I'm good.
You're getting different people all the time that you don't build like a repertoire, and you don't see the same people twice as often. So just, you know what I mean? You don't like build connections with people or build like that repetition of seeing them. It just feel, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
as close knit of a
Right.
game.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was such a one of the reasons that I kept going, and I think I have such good nostalgia with both Final Fantasy 11 and WoW. Was it was just a game where everyone was working together, you know. In the case of WoW, you know, you even had I was Alliance for the most part. You even had the dude on the horde that you knew he was like the troll. You know what I mean? Like he would be waiting for you, like watching your quest to kill you and shit. Like he even knew your enemies sometimes. And I love that about those classic games, those classic MMOs that came out, and you really it was a tight knit community that you were intimate with. You know, I really miss that.
So what that did for the community in general, right? We keep saying like you knew who your enemies were, you knew who your friends were, you knew who you wanted to play with. It kind of allowed the community to police themselves in that kind of way. Once you knew somebody was, just unbearable to be around, was doing things you didn't agree with, you just didn't, the community kind of pushed them away. It wasn't like in this case, like for League of Legends, like Riot having to step in and do all the like the heavy lifting, like putting the bans down and things like that. There's no, I guess, real sense of like a unified like miniature communities within League of Legends. They just don't exist. Maybe only at the highest level, like
Yep.
the what do you even call it now? The challenger level players, because it's just such a small group. Like they all know each other. So
Yep. Yeah, I mean, even just hearing everybody talk about it now, it's actually quite amazing that anybody's able to get anything done in a competitive game online at all. That you can even like get together with 4 other strangers and win a game. It's actually like it's pretty impossible because you're coming in with completely different mindsets. I mean, think about it in a real world scenario where you have to just like come into a room or something with these 4 people you've never met, and like you don't get along with any of them. You actually like really don't like them at all, and you've got to like solve this complex problem and like beat this other team. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody would be like fucking dead.
Yeah, it's pretty miraculous when you really do get a group of people that you're able to do that with, that you're meeting online that you're not friends with in real life. You know, it's it seems like, you know, I had a group of friends that I met online on League of Legends a while ago, a long time ago, probably about 6 years ago. We would consistently get on every night and play together. And that was we won a lot, and we were really good. I don't think we got very high in the rankings, but it was just a lot of fun to be winning. And I don't know where the hell I'm going with this.
Well, we've met some pretty cool people on HOTS as well.
Yeah.
That we've played
Yeah,
with, and that's always fun.
Our Mexican friends.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Haven't talked to them in a long time.
It's been a while. I think one of the
lead us back here.
Well, I think one of the huge factors here is the pro scene, as well as, you know, you have this streaming community as well. And I think that they both contribute to these players thinking that they're better than they are, because they see the pros come in with these new builds or something, and they try to replicate this, and they do it, and whether they play it well or not, it doesn't matter. They just think that it's the best strat for the game all of a sudden, because they saw it, and they saw somebody that's really good at the game do this. And now when somebody doesn't do that, they think that player is instantly horrible at the game, or they don't know what they're doing, and that's just not true. But I think that is a huge factor on the toxicity of communities. I really do. It might be the biggest one.
Yeah, it's a lack of respect. I mean, I have this mentality, and use this in real life, and I try to do it in video games as well, but it's a little bit harder. You have a baseline of respect for a person, and you treat them, with that with that in mind. And it's usually, you're kind and considerate, and but also if they're doing something wrong, then you'll tell them, and there's not that baseline of respect, you know what I mean? It just goes straight to like the bottom of the respect level.
Eloquently put.
Gosh.
I think
Yeah.
too, like, especially now, like with like at least with people that like are old or a little bit older, like because you're so like you know what I mean. You're so busy with like work and life and shit that when you play a video game and like you just like play with people that you think are bad or whatever, you just feel like you're wasting your time when
Mhm.
you lose. So people get like, you know what I mean? You just feel like you're wasting your time when you're playing a losing game. And I think I'm kind of like that, I think. Where like,
I
you
mean,
know what
we
I mean?
all
You're
are to a certain
busy and
extent.
then you get into you know what I mean? You're busy and shit and you get into a game and you're like finally there to have fun and then like you just get shit on in like a MOBA or whatever and then you know what I mean? And then it's just like what the fuck? Like why am I even wasting my time? And that like makes people I think that contributes a little bit, at least to the older generation. I know like probably not kids as much, but
Yeah, when you don't have, endless hours a day to be just
right. So like
spending
if
them
you're
however you wanted.
right, like, "Ah, I can play 2 games of HOTS tonight or 2 games of League," and then, like, the first game you get in and, like, because I mean, it is a thing, like, sometimes your team is just bad. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh
Sometimes, like, a
yeah,
guy just
yeah. I mean, it's
like, sometimes the guy just feeds his ass off and, like, you just can't win the game because, like, this fucking cat is fed and she just fucking
yeah.
dances around with her blades and kills everybody.
Well,
And,
yeah.
like, you're like, "Well, fuck this."
You're locked into the game for 45 minutes.
Right, and I think that contributes to it to some extent, but
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I used to be victim of it too. I think this like pro player thing, especially right when I started watching the pro scene for League of Legends, like seeing what they do,
Mhm.
specifically jumping into a game and trying to replicate that. And people fall victim to it so often. They're doing strategies and maneuvering in ways that you'll never come close to that level of coordination with four other strangers. Even if you knew the four other people, they were like your best buds. You don't play anywhere near as much as they do. You're not going to be able to pull off what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't expect that from other people. If they want to play slightly different with like a build, how their style of the game, like everyone takes teleport top lane and you can't take ignite flash, like you can't do that, flaming them before the game even starts. it, I mean, that's toxicity right there, and I think I've been victim of that as well. It's
I
just
think
so easy to do.
I think you made a really good point with, like, people watch the pros, you know what I mean, like a pro league match or whatever, and, like, people don't realize that, like, those people literally are playing League of Legends every waking hour of the day and practicing together and scrimming against other teams that are, like, incredibly good, and, like, no one else does that. There's no one does that. You'll never
Mm-mm.
have that. You'll never play at that level of competition or that level of coordination that often, like, all the time. It just you know
Yep.
what I mean? So you'll never be
Yeah,
on that level.
the fact of the matter is these kids, these guys are, or ladies are handpicked. They're already handpicked for their skills. And then they're put into a situation where they're playing, like you just said, they're even playing in certain scenarios where they're, you know what I mean? Playing against a certain set of heroes or champions in the case of League of Legends, where this might be the high likelihood of the team that they're going to be facing. This may be the setup they have.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's pretty silly to think that you'll ever be as good as them. I don't think that is as big. I think the main driver here is, and it's something we talked about earlier, was it's just the internet disconnect that people don't get. You don't have facial expressions to go off of. You don't have gestures. You know what I mean? Even how some people how they move their body and in a face to face, you can tell if they don't they're not into what you're talking about, or they're really interested, or they want to beat your ass, or you know what I mean. Like none of that is happening, and I think that people forget how important that is to social situations and face-to-face situations. It's super important.
There's a lot of social cues that you need to pick up on. I'm not sure that like these most toxic players on MOBAs are going to pick up on social cues anyway, but I think like I don't even like to really text anymore very often. I would much rather just call somebody so I can at least like hear the influx of their voice so that I know like how they're feeling or something, or pick up on something that I might not get through a text or a keyboard. Yeah, and you definitely don't get that.
Yeah, the typing's definitely like, you know what I mean? Like you don't get their tone, like, or anything. Like there's definitely even like texting, like, you know what I mean? Somebody says something to you and you like take it a different way than it was intended just because like you don't have like, you know what I mean? You're just interpreting words. You're not like, you don't hear your voice like tone or inflection or any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like it's already hard enough to when we're communicating with each other and face to face or over the phone. It's already hard enough, or over a chat if you're in voice chat with or on Discord with your friends or whatever. It's already so hard to get a good understanding of how the other person's feeling, or if you how their day went or whatever, and then you add the layer of not knowing anyone, and you're just jumping, like you said, Matt. You pretty much summed it up. You're just jumping in there with random people. It's if it goes well, it's miraculous, really.
Yeah, it's like a gift from God. Honestly, it's like almost an
Seriously.
impossibility. Yeah,
yeah.
One of the things I wanted to say was that toxicity, this like negative attitude. I feel like this might be the only way to like actually express yourself in this kind of format and to get people to pay attention to it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you could be super positive, like you've tried to do, Ben, and be constructive and do whatever you want. People generally just aren't going to listen to it. But like if you start MFing somebody and calling them names, you're going to get a response probably really quick, and you're going to get your point across. And I think like people found out really fast, if to say what you want to say, like start calling them names.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're probably right.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I think that it's. I wish we could fix this, because I like to be optimistic. I like to support my teammates and shit, but it's really hard in the communities that we have here. I wanted to say I got off track, and I'm sorry to throw us off a little bit here, but I wanted to go back and kind of point out that there, a lot of these developers and everything, they've put some barriers in regards to communication, especially across team, opponents. You can't, some games you can't communicate with your opponents. There's an option to turn it off in League of Legends. There's a lot of things that if you choose to, you can just, you can block someone, mute them. There's a lot of things that you can do. It's just, it's kind of unfortunate that's like the only barrier that they've come up with, is to just shut the person off.
Yeah, well, okay, the team to team chat, the all chat thing.
I mean,
maybe we can jump into like the psychology of this or something, because like you always get that one dick that has to say something to the other team, like, oh, my team's so heavy, or like, oh, can't carry 1v9 or something. And it's like, what is that guy getting out of that exchange? You're never going to talk to your teammates again, and you're especially not going to talk to the other team ever again. You never come across them one more time. So like, why do you have to throw your team under the bus like that to make yourself feel good with this other 5 set of strangers? It's the strangest fucking thing.
I think it could be multiple things. I think it could be that he doesn't get to do that in any other part of it, or the person doesn't get to do that in any other part of their life. They may just have a real mundane, no excitement, so they go home and that's their thing. Let's fire up League of Legends, and I want to talk some shit to the opposing team. Fucking run my mouth, say how good I am. Woo-wee! You know, that's the big part of their day. You know, I think that that's one of the things, and then I also think that like we've been talking about is the community kind of that's kind of like where the expectations are a little bit if you think about it. You know, that's expected for somebody to people may perceive that as a way to make things more interesting, you know. Maybe they're trying to fire up the other team, you know. I think those are the more unlikely scenarios. I think the first scenario is probably the most likely. But you know, it could be multiple things here, but I love the all chat, man. I don't know why, like especially when you're winning, like I don't run my mouth, but I'll always like say something funny like, "You see that, man?" You know what I mean? Like, or you know, you're just taking jabs at them, not like anything serious, but and I've had a lot of good chats with the all chat and League of Legends, the back and forth with teams, and it ends up in my particular situation, it ends up actually being pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I I can see where you're coming from, and I get like going after the other team. I'm talking about the guy that's like shitting on his own team to the opposing team, like that fucking guy.
Yeah, I think it's just to make you feel better about yourself. Like, you know what I mean? It's like taking the blame off your shoulders. You're like, it's not my fault, it's their fault. Like, I'm not bad, they're bad.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
that is
that's
it.
what it is. I really think that's what it is. It's like they, you know what I mean? They don't want the responsibility. Like, it couldn't be their fault. It has to be the other 4 players are just really bad, not them. And they want to like make sure it's known that like I'm good, they're not. But like when you do that, you don't really, no one really takes it that, you know what I mean?
No, it's
if
like
the guy,
15 minutes of fame.
yeah,
And
right, and, like, the other team doesn't is like usually our team's like, "Dude, you suck worse than all 4 of the other guys on the team."
they
You know what I
suck.
mean? Like, you don't like,
Yeah.
no one ever agrees with you. And the people that do that usually like, stink.
It's true. It's usually like your Yi jungle or something.
Isn't that really weird though? Like I kind of want to like draw the parallels between like actual, you know, I don't want to say actual because I mean these are actual sports now, but like the traditional sports like basketball and football and stuff, like when you were playing in high school or like competitively or like for fun or whatever you were doing, like I guess there was like some trash talk and stuff, but like I don't remember anybody like playing and then just start like flaming their own team in the middle of a game. Like
No.
I
I
guess
guess
like
it's
there's that.
because you built that rapport, I guess, with your team.
Right.
I don't know. I've seen some people do that, man.
Very rarely. And I mean,
Basketball. I've got like I've been in situations. It was when I was really young, but like I've been in situations where I was on a losing team a lot, and you know I was playing pretty good, and we had a few. I had a few guys on the team that I knew were good players, but like you know they play lousy or. I would be the only one scoring or something like that. So I'd be like, I'd get frustrated and might say something like, come on, guys. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck's going on? You know, like, but that was because I was a little shithead when I was younger. But I think some of the adult players or, you know, teenager, young adult players that are playing these games, they have that mentality still. You know what I mean? And it's not a very sophisticated one, but it's out there.
You think like if people started doing that, even if like we were at the YMCA playing basketball, like a pickup game, and the dude on my team started like spazzing out on everybody there.
Oh, the
Oh,
YMCA,
man.
that shit
Yeah.
happens all the fucking time,
Well,
bro.
I mean, it's either going like one or two of two ways, like that like self-policing thing, right? Like, you know, no one's playing with this guy ever again, but you really can't do that in League of Legends. Or someone's getting into a fist fight with him. Like that was like
That's a YMCA.
and now
thing.
there's no repercussions to this like online anonymity of the entire situation where you get these, I don't know, kids. Hopefully they're not doing it in real life too. It's just bad behavior, right?
No, I want to come back and say I'm almost positive in most cases they are not doing it in real life. And I know as when I was growing up, like playing video games, like that was not a thing because well, hey, maybe with games becoming more popular and it's a big scene now with younger kids and everything, it may be a thing. But when it was a thing that you wanted to be secluded in your video game playing, like you had your close-knit friends that you played video games with, but like broadly across your friends, you didn't want everybody to know.
Do you think that bad behavior has anything to do with the culture of streaming and making money and potentially becoming a competitive player, or making a lot of money doing it? I feel like it might influence a little bit. Like these kids, or whatever age they are, I guess they don't have to be kids, but they feel like they have to be the best, or they have to be perceived as being good by everybody because they don't want their fake internet reputation tarnished or something.
Right, that, and I think too, like, I would say there's definitely a pretty good amount of streamers that like their streaming persona is to be a dick or be toxic, and people like watching that for whatever reason, and I think that definitely feeds to that as well. Like, there's definitely streamers that, you know what I mean, are like more like antagonistic or toxic or whatever, and like people like watching that, and I think that probably doesn't help either.
Yeah, I guess there are.
We're like in the midst of
there
like
definitely
the outrage.
Yeah.
Or the
right.
You know what I'm saying, like that fake outrage kind of like social media kind of thing, like the crazy responses to everything, like going absolutely ballistic, and at the drop of a hat. Like I would imagine, like Dave's saying, like it's much easier to be like a crazy reactionary person just to be entertaining than to be, actually really good at a video game.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like the
And
default.
that's and then like another big thing that I think, like another big point I want to make is I think people lose sight of like anything that's competitive, whether it be like an esport, a real sport, the job market, whatever. Like anytime there's like high levels of competition, people just get a little bit meaner. It's just how it works. You know what I mean? You're competing.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
competition naturally breeds like not necessarily toxicity, but like you know what I mean? Like it's like people like, if you're competing, you're not gonna be like, "Oh yeah, how you doing, Sally? Everything's great." Like, you know what I mean? Competition brings out that in
Sally.
people. Like that's just how it works. Like competition makes people a little bit more mean or have a little bit more of an edge to them. It's just human nature, like not getting around it.
Yep, and that makes sense. I mean, when you get to like a biological level, like the competition is like it's not a nice thing sometimes, and it kind of makes it, but it puts you in that weird state where you have to learn, or you're either gonna run away and cower, right? Like you either have to like stand up to the person and fight your way through the adversity, or it's gonna break you. So that's why people act that way, because they know that they can put you in that situation.
Right. And I just think, and like just as an example, like for hockey playoffs, like when they're playing, everybody's MFing each other and screaming at each other and trying to hurt each other and shit. Like whenever it's over, like they all get in line and shake hands, and like generally everybody's really nice to each other, and like good game, man. Like you know what I mean? And everybody's like there's respect at the end because like they know that they're just competing, and like it's like there is a life outside of the competition.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, I just remember like playing high school sports. The people that I used to like trash talk the most with on other teams or from other schools usually ended up becoming like the people that I knew the best. Like moving forward throughout my career, which is kind of strange, but like you would become like better friends with them after the game was over or something.
Yeah, right. And like I think that, and like that kind of banter too, like you know what I mean, like motivates you.
Do you think that
Like
I've I've hinted at this before. I'm not sure what you think of this or not, but I've always thought that with the games being digital and not being a physical sport, and not having these like physical limitations or these outside influences like referees or weather or like injuries outside of having like a really bad hangnail or something and you can't click the mouse, like people expect you to be able to play to a certain level that is like anything that is like nothing less than perfection, because like you're able to, right? You know your cooldowns, you know where to put your player, you know when to shoot your gun, or you know where to aim, or you know when to use your ult, that kind of stuff. Do you feel that perpetuates any sort of toxicity because players expect the utmost best of you because again, there are no outside influences or physical limitations besides maybe having like bad ping.
Yeah, it's a different. I think it's something that we're still trying to flesh out because it's relatively new. Other sports and other competitive things that we participate in that are physical in the physical world. There is the rules are. There's bigger consequences, right? And with this, we're still trying to flesh that out, I think, and I hope that we can get to a point where we can. It's going to be difficult.
I think, Ben, yeah, you make a really good point there. Like, it isn't so black and white as it is in, the traditional sports where I feel like if you to walk out onto like a basketball court and just start playing, you're going to find out like really fast, that if you're bad, that you're really bad if you're playing with other people. Or in like online, I've been there. Like I've been like at the lowest ranks of League of Legends for a time, like playing with the worst people. Like everyone's so like unself-aware. Like there's like really no. It's hard to tell sometimes. Like you watch the pros and you do what they do, and like you think you can emulate it, that kind of thing. Like that you're on this other level. You think you understand the game, but because the games are so new, it's not something as established. That you go to a traditional sport. I'm sure people can like really relate. You've tried something and really fast that heck, like, this probably isn't for me, and these guys are way better than me. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the largest factors too, I think, and we had a whole discussion about this like months ago, but our RNG being in a lot of competitive games nowadays, specifically a game like Hearthstone or something like a card game, or I mean it's in a lot of things like battle royales as well. But I touched on very briefly that psychology of like the highs and lows that come with getting extremely lucky and winning and extremely unlucky and losing, and how that negative effect is always more pervasive than the positive effect, and that's always happening across that very large scale, like a million times over every game. Do you feel like that has an effect on toxicity? Because me personally, that's the one thing that'll like really affect my mindset. I'll jump onto a game at night and want to relax, and I'll be playing Hearthstone, and I'll get screwed over in 1 or 2 games to start off, and I'm off for the night. Like I can't take it. I just cannot play the game anymore.
I think I feel the other way about that.
I think it's a factor, but maybe not. It's not like I don't think it's a huge factor, but I think it definitely plays some role, especially depending on the game. Like a card game, probably more so than like a MOBA.
Yeah, there's not as much in the MOBAs.
I mean, you could even say. I mean, you could even say like matchmaking and how you get your team is RNG too.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah.
So like you can just get, you know what I mean? Because there's definitely games where you like get a team. You know what I mean? Like you get match made and like the one team is just better. Like I don't like the players are just more mechanically skilled or whatever, and it's just like what the fuck. Like why couldn't I have been on the other team and one of those assholes been on this team?
Maybe this is more an example of like the toxicity of the game itself and its influence on me personally versus like the toxicity of the community. But that is like an example of like I said, when I get the most mad, it's not from like a player being bad or a player being toxic towards me. It's more like when I feel that I got screwed over by the game itself. That's when I get like really pissed.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty I get down in the dumps. I don't really give people grief or anything like that. I'm usually pretty down in the dumps on my teammates, especially if someone's just like it's almost like I feel like we're operating in the MOBA area here, but I feel like the thing is like they have with HOTS in particular when I've been playing recently, they have like their moments where it's like, oh, they might be all right, and then they just like it's almost like they're not even fucking paying attention. That's the one that gets me. It's like, you're spending 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on this game. Like pay attention. I don't care if you're shitty, you know what I mean? Like at least pay attention and give it your all. Like it just seems like so many times like someone's sitting at the fucking well or somebody's like sitting in the middle of the lane and getting hit by minions, and then gets cut with before they move, like they get hit a fuck ton by like a maid or a ranged character. It's like, come on, like pay attention and play the fucking game. Those are the ones that get me. Like the toxic dudes are just kind of like, I'll tell you what does get me is when I'm maybe not playing very well, which is very rare. But
it's like once a year, maybe. Maybe.
But I'm not playing very well. And then someone is just, boom, they're fucking on you like they pounce on you. Yeah. And it's just relentless. And it's like, then you say something like, lay off, man. Like, I always admit it if I'm having I'm having a bad game. Let's continue to play. And then they just, boom, more, do. That's like, at that point, like Wolf was saying, if we were on the basketball court and somebody was laying on me like that, I'd be like, dude, you're gonna get fucking smacked. Like that's what happens to me in these games. Like, I'm like, if this dude was talking to me like this in my face, he would probably already be smacked by.
Well, as soon as that happens, you're never gonna win the game because that guy's not paying attention because he's mad, and then you're really not paying attention because all you can think about is like what an asshole this guy is.
Yeah, right.
You're done.
And I think just from personal experience too, and I think I've mentioned this before in a previous episode, but like it's sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I definitely like people do things that definitely like make you fucking irate, and like just like snap reactions like to type, you know what I mean? Like if you're not thinking, like your snap reaction is just to type like you fucking idiot or you suck, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And then I've learned that as much as you want to like fucking freak out sometimes and just start spamming and be like, you suck or whatever, I've won way more. Like I've noticed, like when I just shut the fuck up and play, you win way more games that are unwinnable if you just shut up and not flame people.
Yep. It's that keeping zoned in. Like it really is a huge distraction. Like it takes you away from your
right.
When you're really playing well, and I think we've all played sports. Like when you're really doing something well, and it doesn't even just have to be sports. When you're really doing something well, you get in this flow, right? You're like it's almost like you start turning into a machine. Everything's just ticking. Everything is just like you've got things down to like a science, right? And once you get out of that zone, it just ruins it for you, and then the likelihood of you winning that game has dropped dramatically.
I just get this like image of like Morgan Freeman like doing the narration to Ben like playing basketball. Like, wow. Like all the everything leading up to this moment. He's been training his whole life. He's like a machine on the court.
You can see the look of determination on his face.
Yeah,
I can't do it
going
more
the distance.
I don't think any of us can, but you're right though. You're right. You get in a groove. You got to stay in that groove. You can't be smashing on your keyboard and expect to play anything well.
And like when you're typing, you're not fully focused, and the person that's responding to you isn't fully focused. Like you're just not. You know what I mean? If your fingers are typing, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and in a game like oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's not just the person typing and the person responding. Like all your teammates and shit are still reading it and aren't focused on what they're. You know what I mean? They're looking at the chat. They're not 100% fully focused on what they're supposed to be doing because like they're reading it. They are. I guarantee it. Unless you mute all chat, but like people are like it definitely affects everybody, even if people aren't like flaming it. The people that aren't involved in the flaming, like the person reading it is definitely distracted too by reading it.
I feel like we're harping a lot on MOBAs, which I think that we should. I think that they are the worst culprits of this kind of behavior for sure.
Everyone's a fucking expert, man.
But
everyone's an expert.
You know what other game is really fucking bad with this is Overwatch.
I don't remember that, man.
Oh, that game!
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when you're loading up the game, it like says "Go fuck yourself" like on the screen. It's like
the tip.
Oh, it's unplayable.
Like, you're a shitty bitch.
No, you're right because I know we haven't played it in a while, but I logged on and played a game a few months ago just out of boredom, and like I went in like obviously I'm not fucking good because like I haven't played the game in like a fucking year. And I went in and played a game, and like the guy on my team was just like, "You fucking suck, you fucking trash, fuck you." I was like, "Dude, I've been playing a year. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right.
And it's voice chat with that
I
too, right?
know you. Shut up.
Yeah, I think it is voice
Yeah,
chat.
and
The
he's like in voice chat too,
would
and
be
I was like, listen, motherfucker. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
What's that say about him? He's getting matchmaked with like the guy who hasn't played in a year.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah, I
he's
was
really
like,
That's
good at it.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, like go fuck yourself, you motherfucker.
Yeah, they're bastards on that game.
Yeah,
I don't remember
played
that.
game. I played that one game, and I logged off, and I never clicked on it again.
No, well, we all got off 2 years ago and like never went back.
Yeah,
and you know it's
Oh, yeah.
bad, and that was just the game too. But everything.
The breaking moment for me was before they put in the character limits, and we played that team of all Torsborns, and we just like turned the corner, and fucking blown away by turrets and shit. I've never rage quit something so hard in my life.
I don't have that great a memory. I remember that shit, man. It was like
I could have pulled every hair on my head out of my fucking head.
I had nightmares. I was like rolling in my bed, like, oh, Torsborn.
It was
blasted by turrets.
This little fat chubby dwarf motherfucker, just 100 of them shooting turrets at you. I was irate.
I was thinking about downloading and trying it, but damn, I don't know now. I don't want to get flamed on.
Every video I see on Overwatch on YouTube is like copious amounts of people bitching in the load up screen after like the character select.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, we don't need an effing diss. Like you're this, and everyone's just spazzing out. Like just from seeing that, like I know I would not be able to handle that community. Like if I can't play what I want to play, and everyone's just gonna be like a total spaz about it.
It's gotta be an age thing, right?
It's gotta be like, they don't sound young.
But I mean, it's gotta be
the average.
like
the average gamer is 26 to 35.
I think that's.
I mean, yeah, I know that, but I think in like some of these games, like a MOBA or Overwatch or something, I don't think that average gamer is 26 to 35. I think that's a little bit younger than that.
I hate to speak harshly about the gaming community, but I really think that it's a different type of social interaction, and I think that people overall get really stunted in their development of how they socialize, and they kind of fall into this perpetual garbage. It's I hate, like I said, I hate to like. It's just honest.
I don't want to make. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like the point that I'm trying to make is that it's just like these idiot little kids that are causing all the problems, because that's not what I'm trying to say.
Well,
there are older people as well, but
I've had some fun. The little kids are sometimes funny, man.
Yeah, like, they are, but I just feel like they're not as
funny sometimes.
They're not. I think like you were saying before, like 25 minutes ago, about how a younger kid isn't gonna be able to cope with certain things as well, or they don't have as much experience socially or something, where they're just like not able to handle themselves in a good manner. And that's not every case, but I think that when if the four of us were playing a game in real life against 4 15-year-olds or something, like that wouldn't go very well, or it was just 3 of us and 2 15-year-olds or something like that there would be a huge disconnect there for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like you just don't know what the age is of the person a lot of the time.
Well, first of all, if we were playing against them, we'd stomp them into the ground.
It would be over. Of course.
I'd do a little bit of all chat, like, you guys all 15 years old or something.
I mean, there's a lot of animosity there too. Like, if I just remember, like, would we be playing basketball and like there'd be like an older group of men, like literally like 40s, 50s playing. Do you remember that? And like, if you had to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it never went well. Like, people were like starting to like get at each other's throats, and I imagine that interaction is probably the same online, if not worse, because like you could say whatever the hell you want, get away with it. You start finding out like, oh, I'm playing with this little kid, probably gonna get really annoyed. Like, oh, what is this guy like 6 years old? Like, he's terrible.
Yep. I feel like we kind of touched on this already, but might as well revisit it just before we wrap. Are there any competitive games that have just better than normal communities? And I get, I mean, any game I guess will be fine, but more to the point of like a larger game, like a more popular online game that's more recent, I guess is what I'm really going for here.
Competitive?
Yeah,
We need to make
I mean,
a
it's similar.
stipulation here.
Well, I mean, you can say whatever you want. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm talking about like some bigger, more popular online competitive game. Yeah, like a community that's not as competitive is gonna have a better community, I think. But
yeah,
I think as far as competitive goes, I think Hearthstone's pretty not toxic overall because like there's no chat. You can't talk to the person really unless you friend request them, and they can emote, but like you can mute the emotes.
that's true.
And like the only time that I've really ever had a problem is like if somebody's just being a dick and they like rope out the whole turn and just waste your time, or like if they BM you and like play a bunch of cards where they could have just killed you.
yeah.
But I feel like I haven't dealt with that as much lately. Like games have been pretty smooth. At least at the higher ranks, it doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah,
That's a particular example, and I think that it's really important because there's a lot of thought to not. It's a different type of thought. It's a more methodical, and you're like you have all the data running in your head. Like, can you draw this? Can you draw? Does he maybe have this in his hand? Oh, he could have this. What am I going to use in 2 turns? I could use this in 2 turns. So, there's a lot of that going on. And like, you can't that would be so fucking annoying if there's chat in that, like that would make it really hard for people to think at the level that they need to be thinking. I mean, the card, a lot of people harp on the card games and say they're silly and stupid, but there's a lot of thought to them. So I think that's why those barriers are constructed by the developers of those games, and that's why there is no real communication between opponents and everything like that. I think that the best examples that we have are past, and those are MMOs, are sweet memories of WoW, and for me and Wolf, Final Fantasy 11. I mean, it's just camaraderie and just fun helping each other. The Japanese on Final Fantasy 11 were so nice and giving. They just shower you with gil.
You think so? Actually, when you say that, now that I think back at it, there was some competition in a different sense in those games in order to like claim like monster spawns and stuff.
Notorious monsters.
There was a lot of toxicity between the English and the Japanese community in that game.
Yeah.
They did not get along. I'm
Rating
telling you, man, they really hated each other.
I mean, you have more experience than me, so you would know better. But I feel like overall it was a much better environment.
Better than comparatively to today's standards, but for the time, it had been one of the most toxic communities.
I think one of those games. Well, fuck. I can't believe we didn't think about this, and it's a much smaller level multiplayer wise, but Minecraft. And I guess you're choosing the people that you're entering. Is there any like open servers on Minecraft?
People hold like private servers.
Yeah. So I always see people working together to build stuff. There's something with that's innately in us that like when we are building something, when we're getting as humans, when we're getting something done, and we know that it's resourceful to have another person to help you, like that, then that's where the bonds are made. When you're building up to something, when you're building a physical thing in a game. There's a lot of toxicity in Rust, but there's also a lot of good memories where you grouped up with people, you're like, oh, well, I'll watch your base while you're away. I had a lot of good memories. And when Rust was new and it was vanilla, I think it's kind of garbage now. But just I think that the building aspect, they could make a game where it's building and resource gathering and stuff. That's because you need the other people. You have to make these connections. You're forced into these situations where it's really hard for developers to find the balance to make those games work. I'm finding that more and more with those particular kind of games. The survival building based games are really, really hard to nail down.
Sounds like you want to play Fortnite, like building, combined with the shooting, the competitive nature there.
There you
Go reference the last podcast if you think that I want to Fortnite.
Well, what are some? I guess just to wrap this up completely.
Before we do that, can I just cut in one real quick?
Yeah.
I think like how we're talking about like what is competitive games that are like cool communities or least toxic or whatever. I think a lot of that it's not necessarily what game, but the newness of the game. I feel like newer games where people don't know as much yet and everything are like people are more helpful.
Yep.
Right.
Because there's not everything's not established yet. There's
That's
not
true.
a meta. There's not. I think that's really important because like when WoW first came out, nobody knew what the fuck they were doing and like everybody was just helpful and shit. But now, like, you know what I mean? Now it's like, here's the build. Here's how you play in this situation. Here's how you play in that situation. Here's the items you need that are best in slot. If you don't have this, you suck. If you don't play this way, you suck. I think whenever things are fresh and new and people don't have everything figured out yet, that's when it's least toxic.
That's such a good point, Dave. And I think it was a couple podcasts ago. We were talking about how I hate that everyone has to fall into that mold in order to be successful in MOBAs and other games that are like that. I wish there was more. I wish you could go a certain build and still be at least relatively successful.
Well, Fortnite's not even 2 years old yet.
Oh, shut up.
Got it.
Before we wrap this up completely, what are some potential ways to fix some of the toxicity within these communities? Whether it's on the developer side or just on the individual side, or just to make these games a little bit more bearable.
I think my first point that I want to make with the fix part is, as far as like ban systems go, those are kind of like a slippery slope kind of deal because if you make your like ban system like too aggressive, then like people are gonna get banned that don't deserve to be banned. Like you could just be on you could be on a pre-made with 4 other people that are pre-made and you're by yourself and they think you stink, so they just all report you and then you get banned. So I think you just have to be we have to be a little bit careful about like the automated ban process or whatever.
Yep.
Like if it gets too like you know what I mean, if they're too quick to pull a trigger on some bans, I think there'll be a lot of bans that aren't worthy just because people like don't like you or think you stink. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, yes, I'm in agreement with that. Unfortunately, I just don't think the AI is sophisticated and nuanced enough to understand the wide range of potential toxic things or things that are bannable or
right. And like I think most report systems work on like just a strictly volume kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like once you get to XYZ number of reports, XYZ happens.
Yeah.
For the standard cases, that's how it works.
No.
That's a good point. What do you guys think about this? All right, so like Riot Games hires like contracts like a group of I don't want to say like hitmen, but like maybe some like stronger guys. They're like trained with firearms and things like that, and they just kind of threaten to track, to like dox people through their IP address. If you start acting up in the game.
Are you talking like a chief diversity team or something?
Yeah. You might get a visit from the crew, like that.
The thing is,
I'm not saying what they're gonna do, but
to make that work, there would have to be some cases where they went down and they took down these people. They either killed them.
Well, they could stage that, right? They could stage it, and it wouldn't have to be real at all. You just the fear. You just rule with an iron fist. Kind of thing.
I like that idea. I think that we should.
The only problem there is you're gonna hire a lot of tough guys.
It just has to be one team.
I'm up for hire, baby.
It's about.
I like it. We got to hit the forums. We really got to get active. We got to make sure that we're serious about this and let Riot know that it's a serious idea that they should take into consideration.
I'm not saying they should hurt anybody, but like the threat.
It's like a speak softly and carry a big stick kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
They just like cut to montages of it's like a John Wick thing. These guys are like shooting up like a target range and stuff. Like meet the newest team, but
they're coming for you.
Maybe.
They might come for you.
Yeah. Are they
if
real?
You talk shit
who
to Ben
knows?
Bach.
Oh no.
But just as far as fixes, I think I'm not saying it was perfect and it wasn't great, but it was at least to me, it was at least okay. Was in HOTS like the mute feature. Like if you got reported enough for abusive chat, you would get silenced and you couldn't talk in the game to anybody, like in the matches, for like a day. And then if you kept getting reported and you know what I mean, then it would be longer and longer until you eventually got banned. I think that was it's not great or perfect by any means, but I think that was at least okay at helping to police a little bit whenever, you know what I mean, you get silenced for a day and you're like, for me, like you'd be like, oh well, I must have been kind of a dick. Maybe I need to chill out a little bit.
Gives you that forces you into that mode of self.
Right. Yeah, like because you know what I mean. Most people like once you get a warning or a ban, like you're gonna be like, oh shit, like I don't actually want to get banned for this game. I need to stop being a dick. At least that's how I think. I mean, not everybody, but I think a lot of people would think like that. So I think like that, like it's a soft enough punishment where it's not like you're banned forever, but it's enough to be like, hey, I did something wrong, and there is some repercussion.
Yeah, and you know,
and it scales up as you commit more offenses.
Yeah, and you know, I wish I could implement that in my next relationship as well. If I could call up Blizzard and see if they can help me set that up.
Okay.
Put a chip in her or something.
That'd have to go both ways then, bro.
Yeah, right. You might get a lot of time out.
Well, dude, you're talking to Buddha here.
Right. Yeah, Siddhartha himself.
Buddha,
well, let's
you know what? You know what? I did have something on a serious note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple things too.
Well, you already had the security team.
Well, that was a little too serious. But what Dave was saying, you know, as far as like repeat offenders, that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys want to dive into it, but like who do we think's like actually susceptible to being toxic in a game? Because I'm not so sure that it's always, you know, the same people that are repeat offenders all the time. I feel like there's a lot of factors that could probably go into you getting toxic in a game. You know, you might have been playing 5 or 6, you know, games of HOTS or League or whatever, and by like game 6, you're pretty tilted, and somebody does like one little thing, and you go off. Like, granted, you didn't do that in your 5 previous games. You haven't flamed anybody in like the past, you know, forever, you know, that kind of thing. But like, I feel like this kind of like compounding effect where, you know, just sporadically that it may just end up being like every game you're seeing, it's just this one guy going off being toxic. He's not always toxic, and it's always a different person, you know, like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Like some incredible amount of your games, it feels like there's somebody toxic in there.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I think sometimes people, you know what I mean? Like you've been playing for a while and you just like get tilted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you lost your last game and you weren't mad, but then like, you know, like right off the start, the guy just like runs in and dies. And you're like, what the fuck? Like why? You know what I mean? That,
Exactly.
and I think the number one factor is just like losing makes people toxic. Like when you're winning, people very rarely are toxic. It's when you know what I mean? It's when you're losing. Losing brings out the worst in people.
Oh yeah.
I think that's number one.
That just
Well,
happened.
just unfortunately that it's 50-50. So, I mean, there's always 5 people that are losing.
That literally just happened to me playing volleyball with, like, we were playing like 3-on-3. One of the ladies was like 70 years old. I'm like spiking the ball, like trying to win the game. It's like, dude, I don't know why I just brought that up.
She's just trying to get home in one piece.
Yeah. Ben's trying to end her night a little early.
I'll be there on Sunday. I'm not, no remorse. You get on that court with me, baby. You're mine.
Before I move on, I just want to make a couple points.
Yeah.
I think they're like the 2 best ways as far as like not like consuming too much of the company's resources into policing the games. I think the 2 biggest things are, one is the obvious. It's like you have to take it upon yourself to like be a fucking adult and like don't be a fucking psycho and don't give reactions to people that are toxic. You know what I mean? I think that's like the easiest. Like, you know what I mean? If everybody was just like, I'm gonna stop being a dick, and you stop being a dick, then we wouldn't have a problem. Obviously, it's not gonna happen, but like that's if ever you know what I mean. If everybody started doing that, that would obviously fix the problem. But
Right.
it's not that easy, unfortunately. But I think one of the best ways to do it is if you look. I know we talk about how League being toxic, but I think one thing they have implemented that can help. It just needs to be perhaps bolstered a little bit and like redesigned and give more rewards. Is the
Mm.
honor system?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at the end of the game, you, like,
Oh.
upvote somebody for, like, being cool or being good or being nice, and, like, they need but, like, really expand on that, like, whenever you get an upvote at the end of the game for being good or not being a dick or whatever, like, you get there needs to be some kind of better reward system where you get, like, some kinda cool cosmetic skin
Yeah,
or
you get
cosmetic
5
something.
shards,
Maybe
you
a
know?
skin that nobody else could have.
Yeah, right, there need or, like, even, like, each season, like, if you are in the top 1% of honor players, the next season you get a special skin or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and make
Yeah,
it
very
like
And I think
really cool.
Yeah.
right, and I think yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, I think that stuff really would help. It's not you're never gonna eliminate everything because it's just not
Yeah.
that's not you know what I mean? It's just that goes for anything. You're never just eliminating all the bad. It's just not gonna happen. But I think like an honor system like that but like the real key is the rewards have to be good.
Yep.
Like you
Yes.
have to have cool
Man,
skins or cool cosmetics, and like like a tiered reward system, and like really something special for the upper echelon of people,
I mean,
Yeah.
and
and like really
that's a great
reward good behavior.
it's
That's
a
a
great
great
point.
idea.
But like even if they just tied the rewards to something trackable, like I remember getting honor and things and I would get them like every game
Yep.
and I never even knew where I was at. It was like I
Yeah,
never
right.
gained
Right.
Yes.
anything.
Very
Exactly.
good point.
That's what I'm saying. Like the point is the honor system, that the concept of it is a great idea. They just need to really flesh it out and really give like a tiered system with rewards and stuff. And like that to me, that'll pay dividends. Like
Yep.
that, like I would like if I knew that I was gonna get cool stuff for just shutting the fuck up and playing, I'm gonna be more likely to shut the fuck up and play.
I really
That's a
like
great
that.
point.
People like rewards and people like cosmetics and skins and shit. That I don't think there's any better way to improve toxicity in games than that. I think that's a great
And I'm
way to do it.
I'm really sorry to bring this up at the very absolute back end of this conversation, but I just thought about it like in this whole perspective. Like, you know what fucking happens to people is they come home every day and they're using League of Legends or something as their escape to have fun. And they're doing it for months and it's a blast. And then all of a sudden they're in a higher tier or they're trying to get better at it and they're taking it more seriously or something, and all of a sudden like it's not fun anymore, but like they're fucking addicted to it because they play it all the time and it's like their one positive thing that they get to do all day, and then they start losing or they're not playing well or they're getting flamed, and then all of a sudden like you just fucking blast off, but you can't
Yeah.
stop playing because it's like your routine. You play it every day.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle. Is there really any way to
I'm not even saying
way
it's
to
like
break
the
out.
disorder thing, but it's just like your daily routine. It's just
Yeah,
the
no,
one thing
I
that used to
agree
give
with
you
that.
so much pleasure now is like it's giving you like a lot of negative emotions, and it's like hard
Yep.
to get out of.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely true. One thing that I wanted to say on the first point that Dave had made, and it was a good one, was I think that there's like for people who want things to change, there's not enough communication between people who want the change, and there's not enough people communicating about it and like posts, on Reddit and other things where it's like, why don't we get to a place where like let's get to a place where we can be constructive and positive with each other, because guess what? You're gonna fucking win more games. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I think I think that it won't make a difference overall. There's always gonna be toxic shit happening, but I think it could get better if there was more communication and there was more things implemented. Like Dave was talking about the honor system. That's a really, really good idea. I think that that's a really, really good idea. That there's a lot of people who would want those skins. There's a lot of people who would do it for the extra in-game currency.
Yeah, I think that the honor system thing would really work. It's very, very like the whole point of it is the rewards have to be good.
Yeah.
If they're like the league system
And
now,
they
it's
may
pretty
need
meaningless.
to flesh out, like, because I could see that people might abuse it and just be honoring people to get honors back, maybe.
Right.
And so I think there would have to be ideas fleshed out in order to make it work. But I think that it could. I think that there is a good possibility that that could work. And these companies, especially like Riot, they've had shit. You know what I mean? Like that's a really good idea.
Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up before we move?
Let's get the fuck
down?
out of this.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good conversation.
Yeah, really good.
All right, trending news. So Riot Games, we're coming full circle, sticking with Riot Games. They've announced that they're going to be releasing the League of Legends Pro View. So what this is, it's a new way to watch professional League of Legends matches with features such as a multi-view, which I think that this is really the main feature, and this is the most exciting thing, at least for me. You can have multiple screens up at once in real time, so you can have one that's viewing the overall game like you would normally, and some that are just focused on specific players that you just want to watch their movement across the entire game. I think it's really, really cool. It's also going to have an advanced timeline that marks all kills and objectives so that you can click back to at any point and rewatch those moments. You can watch simultaneously with your friends as well, and this is going to be available for live games as well as recordings of games that happened in the past, so you can kind of use this really whenever the fuck you want. The cost is going to be $15 for the summer split, and it's going to last until Worlds, upon which you would have to pay again. And they had mentioned that there might be some new features at that point as well, but obviously we don't know what those are. They've also stated another really cool thing: the revenue from these purchases will be going directly to regional leagues and teams to continue growing the esports scene. I think personally, like I said, I think it's great. It's something that I would get. It's something that I may actually get. I haven't been watching that much League, but I may pay for this. I think that one thing that's been holding back esports is how the viewers get to view the game. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. I think that companies will further extrapolate this idea out in the future as esports becomes like more mainstream and grows out and evolves a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea because I feel like, especially like League, there's just so many things going on for, you know what I mean, to have one point of view that you're not really getting like the full feel of the game, especially like early in the laning phase. You know, if you have like you can see like everybody in lane at once instead of just like focusing on one thing, I think that'd be cool. And like $15, it's not too bad. And if it's gonna actually like if that all that money is actually gonna go to support, you know, the esports scene and like help out the teams, like I'll pay $15. Like I'll support that.
So I know they still do something similar to that. Like they'll have a secondary cast of the game focused on one player, like the matchup in particular, if it's a really big matchup. But I know they didn't do it for all games. Like I feel like one of the big ones was like Caps, like the European mid laner. He's like G2 and Fnatic and stuff that people would definitely spend a lot of time watching that. So I definitely think this is going to be gigantic, especially for the biggest impact I see this having is for maybe even teams that aren't as competitive per se, like winning like split championships and going to worlds and things like that. But it kind of puts a big emphasis on going out and grabbing a star player to have on your roster in order to generate interest, people to watch them play in lane. We were talking about it earlier. People love to watch and emulate the pros. If I could sit and like what they have, Flame, the Korean top laner in League of Legends, come to the US and play. I was like a top lane player, and he wasn't on any good teams, but I wanted to watch him play while he was here. Like, maybe I consider paying $15 to watch all his matchups all year to see what he's doing, how he's playing.
Yeah, it's an amazing point. That's something I didn't think of. People would definitely do that. Yeah, you got to get that star power. I completely agree.
It might, in turn, it might kind of mess with the whole league in general. I know at least in the NALCS, it seems like teams are kind of trending towards that, like bringing in some star power from some of the other leagues and things like that to have on their team. Granted, they haven't been necessarily very competitive when they've done so, but I think it's just more incentive to do that. And I think everyone's going to be trying to obviously pull in a big name, if it's especially if it's going to generate more revenue for the team in general. You might see players moving to smaller teams where they could be the focus to get a bigger contract. They get to see some of this money because people are paying to see them specifically when their games are being shown. You know, they don't have to compete with, you know, another top tier player on their own team.
My mind, upon reading about this, immediately went to how this could be utilized in a competitive shooter or a battle royale or something, where you could watch a Halo game and watch the whole team move all at once. And they show that sometimes, and they're really good with like going back and forth and showing you like the most exciting perspective or who's doing what. But if you could really watch like the entire team of 4 or 5, I think it might be 4 that normally plays, but anyway, and you could just watch them and their strategy, whether like you're training with your own team or whether you just want to improve in competitive. But just from a viewership standpoint of not having to have them cut from one perspective to another constantly, just it may be hard. Like the casting might be a little off, I guess, because it's only going to be on the one screen that you're watching, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it opens up a world of, I don't even know what the right word for it is, but just this new tech, I think could be like a huge boom for esports. And you could see competitive shooters becoming more popular, or a new genre of a game becoming more popular in esports, because this could make viewership possible.
Right. I think MOBAs in general, especially League of Legends, for me is definitely the most digestible form of viewership in esports. Comparatively, trying to watch things like when PUBG and Overwatch, CS:GO, to an extent, it's a little bit easier to understand. There's just way too much going on, and it just translates so horribly on the screen. If they can figure out better ways to show it, even if it is just always like point of views, and you know you really like this player and you always want to see his point of view, or maybe you don't even know the player, he's just you're following the guy playing like Genji and Overwatch or something, like because you love Genji, you just like watch, you just want to keep watching that.
Yeah, exactly. Or even if it's something like a huge battle royale, you can watch like the top 4 or 5 players and it'll automatically shuffle them through or something so that you get different perspectives.
Yeah,
just something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is just like, as a viewer, you can really watch exactly what you want to watch. You know what I mean? You can really hone in on what you want to see. Like if you're a top laner and you want to watch a top laner play the whole game, you can. Or if you want to, you know what I mean? Or you want to watch the ADC's perspective, you get to pick. You know what I mean? You can focus in on exactly what you want to see instead of like having to jump around and go to different things, which I think people definitely want, you know what I mean, want to see, especially like MOBA related. Like if you play a position, you want to see how a pro player plays from start to finish in a professional match from their point of view without, cutting into, just like jumping around to all the different people, and like you actually get to see like every second of them play. And I think people really, I think like I would like that. Like if I'm a top laner, I would want to watch the top laner play the whole game from his perspective. Like I think that'd be cool to watch, and that'd be
It'd be
helpful
really,
as a player
really
to
cool.
learn.
And
like
you miss
said,
so much.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. In a cast, you really do miss so much. I mean, it just cuts to the action. Like you never see the jungler like clearing the jungle unless he's like being contested, or unless he's ganking somebody. Like they're never on the screen. You hardly ever see
Right.
more than like the biggest matchup. Like, if there's a lot of contention, like in the mid lane, like that's where it's going to focus. You have no idea what's going on bot or top unless there's a kill.
I think that the one thing this might do too is kind of bump up the competition and make players play a little bit better throughout the game, because they know that they can be watched literally for every movement that they're making. Whether that's good or bad, but I could see that having a positive impact on the competitive aspect of the league.
That's interesting. You could see, you
don't want to be
players
like farting around and missing
maybe
CS,
they go for
or
flashier plays in order to generate more interest in themselves, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Playing, I could see a guy like Hooney doing really well with this, like playing really crazy stuff, being aggressive. Players like that probably going to do really well with a system like this, and I'm sure teams will probably go out and try and get these people.
Yeah, I agree. So the new Death Stranding trailer was just released on May 29th. And we really hadn't seen a lot of it since then. There was a smaller trailer that came out earlier in the year. But this is a new game from Hideo Kojima. It's a PlayStation exclusive. It's going to be on the PS4. And we also got a release date. It's going to come out on November 8th, 2019. So I'm not sure how much you guys watched of this or not. I watched the whole thing. It seems pretty insane to me, and I think that that's really the reception that it's gotten across the internet. That's what I've been reading. But do you guys have any initial thoughts about this?
Can I just be Bentradamus here for a moment?
Yeah, I think we'd all really like that.
Okay, I didn't watch the trailer. I've only seen
okay, good.
I've only seen a little bit of gameplay, and there was like guys like chasing him down and like in hazmat suits.
Oh yeah.
And they had like shocking shit or something, like they were beating him with sticks. I think I already know the story. Bentradamus has a small amount of information he can see into the future. So I did also see that baby in the jar thing. He's trying to get that baby away. And they're trying to get the baby back.
I think you might want to watch the whole trailer.
Damn it. Did I just waste a Bentradamus?
No, I mean that might be like a little bit to do with it, but it's so much more complex.
That baby in the jar thing, man.
It seemed like he was using the baby as a way to somehow like cross over into the other dimension or the other realm or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Some kind of or some kind of it's like some kind of necessity. They have to he hooks the baby in a jar up to his suit.
Yep. Yes.
And goes out to I don't know. He's confronted by guys in hazmat suits, like Ben said, with sticks that shock people. And then there's these like those black ghost things that are like kind of hovering in the air that he's like trying to stay away. Norman Reedus, right? I mean,
yeah.
Guys, he's got some big balls on him to be running around.
Well, you know,
with these things.
The one thing I will say,
baby on his back.
It's like a baby holster, you know, like the baby strap. Like
I know there's something. I'm telling you, it's you know, there's some kind of oppression going on. He escaped. He's got this little baby. He gives him powers, but there's complications with it. So like, I got it, man. Like you read it and weep, boys.
What I will say is, my first impressions, I thought the graphics looked great, and they have like the cast in this thing. They have Norman Reedus, which is awesome. They have Lashif from Casino Royale. I forget the actor's name, but he's awesome in that movie. At least I'm sure that he's really good in this as well. They have Troy Baker voicing one of the main characters, which he's the voice of Joel from The Last of Us, and he's Booker from Bioshock Infinite. He's the voice of like a million different things, but that's what I know him well from. But I just think that it seems like they put a lot of time and care into this game, and I think it looks a little bit strange. I think it's supposed to look a little bit strange, whether that's to draw interest or whatever, but I think it's going to be well made, and Ben, I think it's going to have a really good story as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I just drew up, if it's anything like that, it's gonna be a hit. It's gonna sell millions.
Yeah.
It's Hideo Kojima. I mean, if anybody could do this and have it be so weird and still be all over everybody's radar, it's him. It looks ridiculous, and maybe like you were saying, Matt, like this is like maybe this is the future of video games, and like actors and actresses, like you do this crossover and they're literally doing like acting for the game. That they all look like they're like, all the game characters look like their real life counterparts. It looked, well, at least for the big three. I'm not sure all of them.
They look good.
Yeah. It seems like the majority of, I'm not sure. I'm familiar with some of the lesser known actors in the game, but I know Norman Reedus looks like Norman Reedus.
Oh yeah, Lashif. I thought like I was at the blackjack table.
Right. I thought it was a different game when I saw him.
I know. I
was like, oh, another.
No, I think you're right. I mean, well, you saw actors move to TV and Netflix and stuff. Like big name actors, and now, you know, video games are pretty big. You know, they're a trophy fish, so yeah, they're pretty big. Like I think it's just a natural evolution. I think that's a great point, and I think that you're right. I think that you'll see this more and more. I mean, there's a high price tag for that.
They're gonna go where the money is.
Yeah, of course.
It makes sense because it's all about wrapping people up in this tizzy about, you know, they want to bring everybody into the gaming industry, and it's gonna happen eventually.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of startling to realize the pace that it's going at. Really, it seems like it's just these past 3 years, it's just been bombardment, and it seems like it's really planned out, right? Or it's just happening, like, or taking a step back and looking at it, it seems like it is. It's just the way that it's happening, the natural order of things. But it's crazy to see this.
There's just too much money to be made.
Yeah,
you know, the gaming culture is just way too big, and I think that people realize that you can probably tell some of the best stories in video games. I mean, at least from my perspective, the best stories that I've gotten recently have been from games. It hasn't been movies. It hasn't been new books, which I haven't read a lot of new books, so I shouldn't even say that, but at least personally for me, that's true. Like a game like BioShock, or anything, a game like Divinity or Assassin's Creed when that first came out. I mean, those are the new original IP stories that people want. It's not happening in Hollywood anymore. You're just getting remakes. So I think that video games are the place that's happening.
I think there's a lot of, something else to be said for that. This will probably be a really slow transition. I feel like very few people could draw in these kind of big name actors, actresses like Hideo Kojima could, just because I'm sure there was a lot of, monetary compensation there to bring these people in, but he's got a lot of clout around him, and I'm sure a lot of people, want to work with him. I can't think of too many other people. Maybe like Todd Howard might be able to do something similar.
Maybe like Miyazaki from Dark Souls or something.
Right. I don't even know if he's still making fantasy games. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Excuse me. The original Final Fantasy?
Right. I don't know.
Nobu. I don't know. Okay. I get the composers mixed up with the
creator. I do the same thing. Yeah. But regardless, like, there's a handful of people we do something like this at the current time and pull it off. But maybe we'll see. If this is a success, and all signs are pointing to, yes, this game is going to be wildly successful just from the hype build up so far. People are just going to buy it just to buy it.
Yeah.
So wild and such a amazing graphical masterpiece.
Yeah.
Little personal question here before we move on. Wolf, are you into Hideo here? You got a crush?
No.
Is he a looker?
Hideo Kojima?
Yeah.
He's like a super fashionable guy.
I knew it.
He presents himself well. And
he does. I mean,
he's got a man crush.
Have I been crazy about his games recently? Not really, but he seems like a really like cool, interesting guy. If you gave me the option to work with him, I would take that opportunity.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat, and I'm sure most people would.
Oh, it's like we talked about before. I think people are begging for a good story. Like, they're literally dying for it because like nothing else is coming out, and this is something that seems to be unique and original, and that's all people want, especially Ben. But anyway,
yeah, one thing you can say is a story that's really making people think. So, just from the trailer,
yeah, definitely.
That's what we need.
So we have E3 starting up in a week here. It's going to be June 9th to the 11th, which I'm pretty excited for. There's going to be no Sony and no EA this year, which I got to be honest, I really don't care if EA's there or not, but I'm really going to miss Sony's presentation. It's always my favorite, and we probably would have got a Death Stranding trailer or something, like a gameplay special or something if they were there. So that's definitely a bummer. This is gonna be kind of speculative, but let's just run through who's gonna be presenting at what time, and I guess what we think that they might show or what we're excited for. So the schedule is going to be Microsoft at 1 p.m. on June 9th, and then Bethesda at 5:30 p.m. on June 9th. This is all Pacific time. And then the next day on the 10th, we have Ubisoft at 1 o'clock, Square Enix at 6 o'clock, and then following up on the last day, June 11th, we have Nintendo at 11 a.m. So kicking off with Microsoft, I mean, I have a few games listed here. Like, they're definitely going to show Halo Infinite, right? Which I'm super excited to see. I would think something like Gears 5 as well. It's another IP that they have that I think they would have to show.
Is there any talk about that? That's one I'm not.
I think so, yeah. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure 100%. But I think that they'll probably show it.
Okay.
And then without Sony in the picture, and this is pretty interesting. This is the last remaining place for third-party reveals. It can only be Microsoft. So I think we might get some Borderlands 3, maybe some Cyberpunk, and I think maybe even some Great Rune, which we talked about in the last podcast.
That'd be cool. I want to see that Great Rune.
Yeah, I do as well.
I want to see the horse racing. Is it?
Cyberpunk was CD Projekt Red, right?
Yep.
It's that's the hype beast there, bro.
Yeah, I mean that's that one. It just seems like it's larger than life right now.
Oh
like,
yeah, people are nuts.
Even bigger than Death Stranding. Like Death Stranding, just because it kind of came out of nowhere. But this one has been in the works for so long that it's got to be big. Like huge. It's got to be the best game.
I think it'll be good.
When it comes
I
out.
think it's gonna be good.
I hope it's great.
I have faith in the CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all of that. I've heard Halo Infinite's gonna be the multiplayer is going to be a lot like a Halo 3 or a Halo Reach. So I'm really excited for them to get back into form and like back into what the franchise did well before 343 took it over. I don't know why they switched it and like ruined and like made the fans really pissed. Like I wouldn't. It was like maybe the most popular shooter franchise when they changed everything. So I hope they go back to normal. But so with Bethesda at 5:30, I would think they may say something about Fallout 76. Maybe about like not working really well. I think we're probably gonna see Doom Eternal, maybe Starfield, and maybe for the love of God, Elder Scrolls 6. I don't know.
I think there's no way in how Starfield.
I think you're probably right.
There has to be. I mean, they're not going to go back on their word. That's one thing. It's a good company. As bad as Fallout 76 was, I mean, they've made some really great games, and they take their time. Granted, they've been taking a little bit of extra time, but the plan was Starfield first, then Elder Scrolls 6.
Well, that Todd Howard, he's sneaky.
Matt is just holding on to hope. Matt's got one finger hanging off the cliff there. He's like, help me, I want to see the Elder Scrolls.
Even if they can just tell me what land it's going to be in or something. I don't need to see gameplay. Just tell me where the setting or something. I don't think that's a lot to ask.
People have narrowed it down.
The only thing
I think in Black Marshes, wasn't that?
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was ever decided.
Yeah, I think that's the suspect there. Doom Eternal, is Mick Gordon doing the soundtrack?
I don't know, Ben, actually.
I need to know that.
Yeah, I don't have the answer.
I got a hard on just thinking about
it. Doomslayer.
Doomslayer. Do you know anything about the game, Ben? Because you were just playing Doom.
No. I mean, I know that the Doomslayer, he's fucking trapped again now by...
Okay, I just typed in...
Dr. Hayden.
I just typed in Mick Gordon, Doom Eternal, and what came up? Doom composer Mick Gordon recruits heavy metal choir for the next soundtrack.
Yeah,
he's back and bigger than ever.
All right.
So next one's
busted.
Gonna be Ubisoft, or how do you even pronounce it? Ubisoft. What do you guys say?
Boobisoft.
Okay. Perfect.
Ubisoft.
So I have Watch Dogs. I have Watch Dogs 3, potentially maybe Assassin's Creed, and then the last one I have Who Cares? Because I don't know if it's just
That's
me
gonna
being
be a good one.
but I don't care about this at all. Maybe it's just me, but I just don't get excited for these games anymore. I don't know.
No.
I never. I played the first Assassin's Creed. I never beat it. I get it. Like it's cool. I know why people like it. I heard Watch Dogs is good, but Ubisoft, not that. I'm not that into them anymore. I like Rainbow.
Oh yeah, that is them. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
I like
Ubisoft
Rainbow a lot.
also, oh shit, what's that called? Yeah, the other Rainbow Six one.
Tom Clancy? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all them. That's all them.
Yep.
Yeah, those games.
They're pretty
That's
good.
good stuff.
I agree.
Yeah, they're good.
Are
I
they
agree.
the oh, gosh, why can't I think of the name of it? Where you're like the, you're the guys with the guns and you shoot people.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Squad or the Squad
Division?
Final
No.
Fantasy
Division?
Tactics?
Is the Division? Is that Ubisoft? Are we losing
Yeah,
our minds
I think it
here?
is. It's Tom
Yeah,
Clancy.
the Division. That's
Yes.
That's Tom
okay,
Clancy. Yeah.
Yeah, the Division 2, people are loving that shit.
Yeah, I have heard
I
good
doubt
things.
they'll have another announcement this soon from something Division related, but that's a good, seems like a good franchise from them.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed was great, and it seems
Just
like recently it's just so stupid.
There's just too fucking many of them.
Yeah, I'm not really into it anymore. I guess I obviously was never. I didn't beat the first one, but it's like the stealth shit, I think that them remaking the world, the ancient, worlds and everything like that.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah,
It adds a cool
I can see
layer
why
to
people
it.
like it, but me, I'm just I'm out of it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? I think is gonna win the day for that one. Square Enix. So obviously, I mean, there's a lot of potential here, but I don't know like what they have in the works. Obviously, I think we all pretty much like Square. They're gonna show the Final Fantasy VII remake. I think that's pretty obvious. They have this new game that's gonna be about the Avengers that I think they're definitely gonna show, which that has some potential. I'm kind of sick of the Avengers. I might throw up if I see something else Avengers related, but it might be a great game. But since Ben Stradamus already showed up, I thought maybe you could come back. But I thought maybe a new Chrono Trigger, new Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
What do they have up their sleeves?
Oh god.
I think they kind of, unfortunately, I think they've established a long time ago. There was a fan. There was a bunch of fans that got together, and they were gonna make. They were actually in the works of remaking Chrono Trigger, and Square Enix put a stop to it.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they were like, this was probably about 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit. But I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, they put a stop to it, and so that kind of gives you the idea maybe they will continue or do something. I think they just wanted to protect their IP and not let people use it, but
Right. If they're gonna pick up something like Final Fantasy VII, and there's a chance.
Yeah. Tactics.
I'm just not sure that would do well.
I know.
Right now, unfortunately,
I've heard people calling for it to come out on the Switch.
it'd be a great Switch
gosh,
game.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tactics.
A remake, though, I don't think you need that.
I don't. Yeah, there's something about the graphics in Tactics that works really well with the story, and with the grid battle. It's almost like it needs to stay at that level of graphics. I know that sounds weird, but I think it would be hard to, and you see that with other grid-based.
Like Disgaea, it kind of has that animated look to it.
Yes, and
Wildly successful.
I think that would not do well for the people who really love those type of games, unless they replicated it and maybe just like updated the graphics a little bit, but replicated that anime kind of. It reminds me like I don't know. It's going to be weird to say it's a storybook kind of look, because it's really story based.
I get that.
That FF7 remake, though.
Oh, here we go.
Well, no, Wolf. I will say I am getting hope. I know that Ben Stradamus came out. He had that moment in that one podcast where he came out and said that he thinks that it's not him speaking right now.
Oh, he gets ornery sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that he doesn't gonna work out. They always mess up this shit. But I saw some things. It's giving me some hope that it might be turn based, and they may be. I saw that.
There's no way.
What are they doing with the materia? What did they say about the fucking materia?
I thought we talked about. I don't think they specifically addressed like.
I read something
very
recent,
with the materia, but it was that the magic was going to be tied to like they're bringing back like that action time battle bar from 7. It's the same as all the other ones. Like the bar, whether you can see it or not, fills up and it's your turn.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and that is going to. You're going to have like different levels of it and you'll build that up, whether it's like through fighting. And I think that's how you use your moves, like magic wise.
Yeah. Okay. Now I remember.
It's not
this was a leak. I think it was last week. The materia, they are keeping the materia. They're not changing it. It's going to be all equipment based.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's
good.
It wasn't much equipment though. Maybe they'll add more equipment, aside from the weapon and
there was accessories,
the wristband and the except it was just the 2, right?
Was it just bands? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure. Maybe you could wear an accessory too, but I don't think it's confused with older ones.
It's equipment based though, and I think they're keeping the same idea that you learn more but stronger magics through the materia, and
you level up the materia.
Yep,
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, wrapping up with Nintendo here on the 11th. I gotta be honest, I don't really know a lot about what Nintendo's working with. I think they're probably just going to be showing off the Switch a lot. But I have Animal Crossing listed here. I'm sure they have something Pokemon related up their sleeves.
Yeah,
I heard there's a new Fire Emblem in the works, and then Super Mario Maker 2 as well.
I've heard a lot of good things about this Fire Emblem.
I have too, but I just don't have personal experience with it.
I played one a long time ago in the Game Advanced. I liked it. It was good. That people go crazy for them though. People really like that franchise. Animal Crossing. People are fucking nuts for that game.
It looks fun, to be honest.
Animal Crossing, like back in the day on like GameCube, was like the shit. I love that game.
Oh, you've played it?
Yeah, and like I'm not like that's usually not my type of game, but that game was like I love playing that fucking game.
No,
so what? You just raise the animals and shit?
It actually is like the complete opposite of a game that you would play.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would never like that's not like how I am, but that game like I just turned into like a little fucking
I could just see him with a straw hat on.
Yeah, don't you fish a lot too and stuff?
Yeah, it's just like I don't know, it's just
don't bring up fishing. Everybody will be
like stress relief. It's like a game that you can like it's fun. It's like actually fun and like you're just like really chilling out. Like
it's Minecraft.
That sounds like a great game. I know Animal Crossing's a great game. I don't think I'd ever played it myself.
Hey Dave,
Pokemon Sword and Shield though.
Hey,
why doesn't Blizzard go to E3? I mean, I know they have BlizzCon, but
they usually do it. It's just this year they're not having like the traditional like floor thing or whatever. It's I can't think of the word. I'm being fucking dumb. They're not having like the traditional like floor booth presence that they normally have. Like they don't have a traditional space on the show floor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They're like participating in other things, which they didn't really. I'm not sure that they really like delved into it too much. But there's like, like meetings and partnerships and stuff. But there's not like going to be like the traditional floor space because this year they even said that they're not releasing any new games in 2019. So I think that might be.
I think Blizzard's kind of like garbage pail.
I think they're just biding their time.
They're reloading.
Garbage.
I really think they're reloading.
Yeah, reloading the garbage can to dump it on us.
They had a good revenue year.
Damn, is Blizzard garbage kids now?
They had their best revenue year ever this year.
Yeah, they did.
So, I think they're garbage pail kids.
They definitely need new IP, but I think that's what they're working on.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they've always been one of the most cutting edge game companies, and I think they're just working on reinventing themselves a little bit.
Guys,
yeah,
I'm just
bad press
you.
Too.
Yeah, I love Blizzard.
So they're digging out of a hole.
Yeah, I mean, there's been points in the past where like they kind of cooled off for a little bit, but they always find a way to innovate something new that catches on. So I don't know. I think just give it some time. Obviously nothing new in 19. I think 2020
I'm
or
not.
2021, we'll see something cool.
I'm not gonna let you guys gloss over Pokemon.
What do you want to talk
Well,
about?
I haven't liked Pokemon since
Sword.
Yellow.
Well, me neither. But Sword and Shield. It's gonna be on the Switch,
Yeah.
and it's like what I wanted since I played the first Pokemon. I used to always think like, man, why don't they just make this like a true console version of the game, like more open world? And it's like the closest thing to that I've ever seen.
I mean,
Yeah,
is it actually that or?
Yeah.
No, yeah. No, it's
this
So
one
you
is
can
like-
interact with people and stuff.
yes.
Oh,
Well,
I
How
would do that
toxic do you think people are gonna get?
It's-
no, not multiplayer, but like
right.
it's like
It's just like if you
Skyrim
played
for Pokemon.
if you played Pokemon Let's Go that came out
Mhm.
last year, like that was cool because it was like a new, like, you know, Pokemon was always like you walk around and then like you're walking around the weeds and then just like an encounter screen happens, like boo, 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 and the fucking Pokemon pops up. You know, it was like very like
Yeah.
unnatural.
That was pretty good, Dave.
That was
Yeah,
pretty
thanks.
good.
Yeah, I've
I'm
been
not
working
even
on
kidding.
that. I've been working on that.
Where do
I've
you
heard
keep
that.
where do you keep your camera, like for Pokemon Snap? Like, do you hold it in your left hand and then you like throw the Pokeballs with your right, or how does that work?
Pokemon Snap. I'm usually I'm more accurate with my left, so I'm gonna be a left-handed, and
You're
then
Okay.
I'm using I'm definitely doing the Pokemon Snap with
Perfect.
Guys,
Yeah, but
I
look at
see
the
it.
image.
Yeah, it looks
Look
good.
at it.
yeah, but like Pokemon Let's Go, like it was so like the Pokemon encounters, like
Oh, it's
whenever you
stupid.
walk by like the wild areas, like the Pokemon would actually be walking around. Like you would see it. It
Yeah, it's
wouldn't just
very
like
cool. It's very cool.
that's how Let's Go
Have I
was.
just like not been paying attention to this Pokemon shit? I love Pokemon.
Well, yeah. Well, Pokemon Let's Go was just it's a remake of Red and Blue, and like
Oh,
it's like, you know, it's the same like
but
gyms and
it
everything,
was
but
3D.
yeah, it's 3D, and like the
Yes.
Pokemon are actually like out and like you see them in the wild, like out there, and you have to like run into them to encounter them. Like you can
Mhm.
like run around and shit. And it's cool because like you can have like a buddy Pokemon. So like if you like I love Squirtle or whatever, like he'll follow me. You know what I mean? Like when you're running out in the world, or like Charizard or Dragonite, like you can fly on them, literally fly around, like not just like fly and teleport to the next city, like actually fly around like the routes and stuff on the game. It was pretty
Okay.
cool.
I mean, I'm
Oh,
getting
that's
pretty
cool.
hyped. I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
good.
I
You know
mean,
what?
you guys-
I gotta be honest. I think I just might be, and I hate to say it, I think I might just be a little bit done with the franchise. I think I've just played it too much.
Boo, Wendy. Boo.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I
I
could make a
know, I
return,
know.
especially if there was an option that I could link up with people and I could beat Wolf's ass with all
Well,
my
get it.
grass
I'm getting a
Pokemon.
Switch.
Oh,
and
beating Wolf's ass is an option. All right.
Yes, Matt's
Get a
like,
Switch.
"Da-da-da-da."
we're playing. This is like the open world. You know, it's like Skyrim meets Pokemans.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Get more excited, Ben.
Pokemon, Skyrim, Pokey, yeah.
All right. Let's
Party
Go to bed. I'm going to bed.
Let's wrap. Yeah,
Tired.
good night, everyone. Let's wrap this here. Thanks for coming on as always, guys. That was a lot of fun. That was a long one today. God damn. And thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify. We're all on Twitter, and our YouTube is our main channel where we put the podcast as well and some of our other gaming related stuff. And thanks again, and hope to see you next week.